Yeah, greetings and welcome back to another one of our PSCM or Mojo session. And this week we'll be having Brother Khep Heru, who will be looking at Haiti and giving us and bringing us up to date with what's happening down there. But as usual, before we get into the main presentation, and Doug Umani, who will be changing the energy for us.
Asante sana. Yeah, I'm okay. Asante sana and Ndugu Tahaka and Asante and Ndugu Khep Heru. It's very good to see you.
Asante Ndugu.
Asante just means thank you in Kiswahili, and Ndugu means brother in Kiswahili. We use Kiswahili in the Pan-African Congress movement because from the sixth Pan-African Congress, it said that when we have a united Africa, the united language, the lingua franca should be Kiswahili because so many millions of Africans already speak it. It's a way to us to have that connection, but still giving respect to all other traditional languages and traditions and spiritual aspects in Africa, but one that could unite us. So we all speak in one language and all on the same page. It helps us with that unity, that umoja. So my name is Imani. I am a member of the Pan-African Congress movement and a African spiritual life coach. And so we have a ritual that we use as we're in cyberspace, called Mabadiliko ya Nishati, a form of libation or tambiko in Kiswahili, that we can use when we don't have the pleasure of being in each other's presence and feeling each other's energy. But as we understand that we all are emanations of the all, that one vibration, we can still connect. And this is a way for us to do that ritual of changing the energy, of offering our energy as a offering, as we would water, so to the all, and so that we can connect spiritually with each other and be in one accord and learn from each other and grow with each other. So I am now going to share my screen. Do you go? Okay, so there you can see on the screen, Mabadiliko ya Nishati, this ritual, this invocation, which means change of energy in Kiswahili. And so if you wish to take part, please do. As you're watching, everything that you'll see on screen will be translated into English. You'll see it in the English translation underneath the words. So you can take part and understand what's going on. But if you don't wish to, that's absolutely fine. African spirituality is not about coercion. It's about sharing and being comfortable in our own space, in our own traditions, in our own culture. So if you don't wish to, you just want to watch and learn, that's absolutely fine. And if you do, then please do. And we'll share in our energy together. Okay. But in the first part of the ritual is to get ourselves into the correct mind space, into the correct spiritual space. And we use our breath to do that. Breath is life. And what we're going to do is going to breathe together. So we're in one accord, but it also helps us to calm ourselves, to center ourselves. So it moves away from where our enemies want us to be, which is to be animalistic, to be emotional, and to be reactive. Okay, we want to move away from that and be in our right space so that we can command our own true power. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to breathe together 4 times. So if you wish to take part, feet flat on the floor, the palms of your hands on your thighs, back straight so that your spine is straight and so that your 7 energy centers are in line, that the Hindu Kush called the chakra. So we're sitting straight. We're going to do some pot belly breathing. So as we breathe out through our mouth, we pull our stomachs in, and that will empty our lungs. And then when we want to breathe in through our nose, we relax our stomach, make the stomach rounded, and the air rushes in through our nostrils, and that gives us the full capacity of our breathing, not the chest breathing that we do from day to day, but that full capacity, and thereby centering ourselves and opening up our connection to spirit. Okay, so I'm going to begin. So keep your eyes closed, and first of all we're going to do is going to breathe out. So if we breathe out, pulling the stomach in, pulling it in, and then we hold it and relax and breathe. And let the stomach relax and breathe in through our nostrils. That's one, or moja in Kiswahili. I'll breathe out, pull the stomach in, hold it, relax stomach, and breathe in through the nose. And really, for that cleansing breath, come in. Now breathe out. Center ourselves. Hold it. Now relax stomach, breathe in. Feeling our lungs and our chest fully filled with air. And now, final time, breathe out. Hold it. And relax, breathe in. Ne. 4 times. 4, because that's the spiritual quantity for stability, for growth and strength and abundance. Okay. So we're going to now move on. So you can open your eyes. And so everything I'm going to say now, you can see in English underneath. Okay, so Kubadilisha nguvu sasa. Tunawashukuru wote. Mamlaka na mababu. Kuuliza kwamba tuna uhusiano wa karibu na kwamba watusaidie katika kuonyesha malengo yetu. To change the energy, we now thank the all, the powers and the ancestors, to ask that we have a closer connection with them and that they assist us in manifesting our objectives. And in order to send that vibration and to ask that connection, we're going to chime this triangle of that particular shape of the 3 sides, 3 for connection, for creativity, for birth. Very powerful shape. And we're going to ring this triangle 6 times. And Spirit tells me 6 because that's the quantity for home, service, and family, which we are doing here today, with our family, to look at our family, to understand what's happening with our family and how we can assist and grow and assist our family and move forward. So as I ring the chime, allow the vibration to go around you, through you, and over you. As we do, then focus on your energy, resonating with that vibration, and that's offering your energy. And we can connect with each other because we're opening up our 3rd eye, our pituitary gland, and that opens up to universal consciousness. And by opening up to universal consciousness, to the all or the creator, we connect with each other. Okay, so close our eyes and I'll begin. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Nne. Tano. Sita. Continuing with the ritual, this invocation. So now we're going to call upon the powers. These powers are not outside of us. These powers are within us. They are us. And so that is why we say together here, Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Sisi ni kitu kimoja, which means we are one, or we are the same thing. A very powerful affirmation. So I begin. Ninaomba ya muumba awote. Sisini Kitu
Sisini
Kumoja.
Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba ya Nebacha. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Now going on to one of the Lawa of Vudon. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Mamiwata.
Sisini
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Now on to the Kemetian concepts of energies or neters, nature, forces of nature that underpin all existence. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Shu. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Tefnut. Sisini Kitu Kumoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Nut. Sisini Kitu
Kumoja.
And now we go on to the Paut Neteru, the spiritual science of, again, calling upon those powers within us that underpin all existence. So these are helping the human being to perfect themselves so that they can bring themselves into balance and thereby bring all of existence into balance. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Geb. Sisini Kitu
Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Auset.
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sebek. Sisini Kitu
Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Heteru. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Heru. Sisini
Kitu.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Herakuti. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Maat. Sisini Kitu Kumoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sakar. Sisini Kitu Kumoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Tahuti. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Ausa. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Amen. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Now we can go on to calling upon those powers or those ancestors who are in our direct bloodline. Before we call anyone, we call upon those because that is the reason why we're here. If it wasn't for them, and they are part of us, not outside of us, they are so we're invocating their power from within us, from our very DNA. And I'll begin. Ninaomba, Mama Yangu, my mother, Audrey Mae Kelly. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Please and do.
Ninaomba mababu Mother Iselin Rattigan, Louise Hines, my grandfather Sylvester Rattigan. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
As it is Mother's Day today, we are told, Ninaomba, Mababu, Marie Giselle Polemon, my mother, Sisini
Kitu Kumoja. Ninaomba, Bibi Yangu, my grandmother, Ketra Reed. Sisini Kitu
Kumoja. Ninaomba grandfather Ruth James' great grandmother. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
Inaumba Babu Clarice Boudot, my grandmother, who spoiled me and loved me so much. Sisini Kitu
Komoja.
Moja.
Beautiful. Ninaomba Babu Yangu, my grandfather, Egerton Reed. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
Sisini Kitu
Moja.
Okay, no one's caught anybody else, that's fine. So now we can go on to those ancestors who are not in our direct bloodline, but gave their time, effort, resources, and their very lives for the liberation of our people. Ninaomba Mzee, or means the elder. Ninaomba Mzee, the Honorable Marcus Mazar Garvey.
Sisini
Kitu
Moja.
Ninaomba Ninaomba Sheikh Anta Diop na Bamba na Helen Saturi Jata.
Sisini
Kitu
Komoja. Ninaomba Babu Emperor Jean-Jacques Dessalines, founder of Haiti, Empire of Freedom. Sisini Kitu
Komoja. Ninaomba Wazee Amy Ashwood Garvey, na Amy Jacques Garvey, na Max Garvey Jr. Sisini Kitu
Komoja. Ninaomba mababu ya brother Gel, na brother Doggy, na sister John, na brother Berenge. Sisini
Kitu Komoja.
Ninaomba mababu, the Candace Queens. Queen Ya Asantewa, the warrior queens, who loved and mothered and nurtured, and also fiercely defended those they loved. And also all of the sisters who followed through the centuries and who have lived by that example. Sisini Kitu
Komoja. Ninaomba Wazee Chancellor Williams, na Dr. John Henry Clark, na Del Jones, na Ishakamusa Barashango, na Chancellor Williams,
Destruction.
na J.A. Rogers, na Winnie Mandela.
Sisini
Kitu Komoja.
Anyone else? No? Okay, and so we continue. And now we can call upon those ancestors who we don't always know their names, but they left us a tremendous legacy. First, those of the Mangamazi, those who fought and died in the Arabic enslavement, European enslavement, and in colonialism and neo-colonialism. Ninaomba Mababuya Mangamazi. Sisini Kitu
Komoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya Haitian Revolution. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
All of those sacrificed. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya Gula Vita, those who fought in the Gula Wars. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
Kitu Komoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya Taifala Mosai, the first Pan-African Empire. Sisini Kitu Komoja.
Mosai Empire.
Ninaomba Mababuya Inamba Mababu Watuya Kori, or the name that our family in Australia call themselves. Na Papua New Guinea. Na West Papua.
Aye.
Na Dravidians. Na Tasmanians. Sisini Kitu Kamoja.
Kitu Kamoja.
Ninaomba Mababu. Ninaomba Mababu Wanachama ya APLA. Na SWAPO. Na Freedom and Land Party. Na Black Panthers. Sisini Kitu Kamoja.
Kitu Kamoja.
Ninaomba Mababu Mataifa la Kemet. Na Taseti. Na Kush. Na Nubia. Sisini Kitu Kamoja. And then finally for our ancestors, the first civilizers. Ninaomba Mababu watu ya San. Na Twa. Na Hutu. Sisini Kitu Kamoja.
Kitu Kamoja.
Ninawaomba wanaishi ambao watatetea sisi. Na wale mababu ambao bado hawajazaliwa. Sisini Kitu Kamoja.
Kitu Kamoja.
And finally, we undone the words of power and manifestation on screen. We're seeing the traditional colors of red, black, and green. But also we see the translation in purple, the spiritual color for, or vibration for intuition. So we say, with power and intent, nothing comes into being without our will. The only thing that limits us is our own mind and our own imagination. So we say, with our own vibration, to bring it into reality. So you follow after me. Nguvu zote.
Nguvu zote.
Nguvu zote.
Kwa watu wetu.
Kwa watu wetu.
Kwa watu wetu.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Mapenzi
ya wote.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Hakuna
mwanzo.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Finally in Khemetian. Anuk Amen.
Anuk Amen.
Amen.
All power to our people. The will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end. I am. Amen.
Amen.
Asante ni sana, Jamaa.
Asante.
Yeah, asante sana. Grimani for that.
Karibu. You're welcome. I'll join you at the end.
Right. Okay, certainly. Let me just right. So now I'd like to welcome with us Brother Khep Heru, and today he'll be looking at Haiti or Haiti, as we also like to say. Yes. So I'm sure Brother Khep Heru is familiar to quite a few of those who are watching it now. But for those who are not, what I'd like him to do just before he gets into his presentation proper, I'd like him to just give a brief background on himself and as to what he does. So, Brother Khep Heru.
Asante sana, I give thanks. Ndugu Tahaka, Brother Tahaka. And again, asante sana to our brother who just briefly stepped aside, Ndugu Imani. And yeah, it's certainly to me a blessing to be a part of this blessing that Ndugu Imani does. I am Brother Khep Heru, Ndugu Khep Heru. Some know me as Brother Mario Goose. And the Goose, I bear that name as well. It was good enough for my father. And then they, between him himself and my mother, they named me. but I also bear. Excuse me for that. That was the my alarm telling me that I need to give my his insulin shot to my little cat, which I'll do in a moment. Um, I am presently an educator, a science educator in the UK, secondary level, and that's what I've done here for a good many years. I've been in this country since 1992, end of 1992, and I trained here to teach science. But I was teaching pre-training in the US uh, in an immersion program where kids from Haiti were children from Haiti were brought in, and they had to spend kind of a year getting immersed in the language, and I was a part of that process in a junior high school, which is really years 7, 8, and 9, the equivalent. That's what that is. And then I found that I felt a taste for that, and I said I carried on. So when I came here in '92, I trained to teach. Well, I didn't do it until 1997, and then I qualified in yes 1998, and then I've been teaching here since. And in that process, I have felt a need to go back home to Haiti and to be useful. Uh, and so I took early retirement in 2016, end of that school year, and then spent 2017, the entire year in Haiti, building the Campus One, the first building of the Jean-Jacques Dessalines Imperial Institute. And there's a reason for each syllable of that name. Um, and that building stands now, not operational, nearly finished, certainly finished on the inside, well, mostly, but or rather the construction, but not furnished, and some construction still to be done. And that was from since 2007 to the 17, excuse me, to the present, from 2017. So that's the work that waits to go and be completed. In addition to this, so I'm back in the classroom here because I need to earn money. I need to pay my bills here, and I need to again raise funds to carry on to finish the construction of Campus One of the institute, so we can go on to the other campuses, and with a projection of at least 5 campuses in Haiti. And then we can spend some time at some point talking about the whole idea, because understand the institute is not here to replicate what's going on in terms of education in Haiti. It's here to bring something quite different. I'm also I was a founding member of UHUK, United Haitians in the United Kingdom, when that charity took shape here in the UK back in 2009, 2008. And then, of course, we were responders when or at least foreign responders, when the earthquake occurred that took some 300,000 lives, a number that's always been minimized by the West, sometimes to as little as 100,000. And now they barely give us 200,000. But thing is, hundreds of thousands of Haitians lost their lives, so of Africans in Haiti lost their lives. So we can dispute numbers, but these were kind of world war proportions, numbers of people. So I was a part of that process. And although UHUK is not so much defunct, but very inactive now, I still consider myself, one of the founding members, and who knows, there's maybe some revival of that organization, that charity. I'm also, in addition to that, a member of the Haiti Support Group. And I sort of was loosely a member for, that was kind of dormant for some time, but it got kind of a shot in the arm just a few months ago. And then so the Haiti Support Group is also back. But really, all of that, in addition to that, I'm a member of the PASCF, the Pan-African Society Community Forum. And of course, we work as often as possible, as frequently as possible, as harmoniously as possible with the rest of the Pan-African body here in the UK and worldwide. So I hope that's I trust that gives you as much as a rounded idea as we can get into of what I'm about here today. Brother Tahaka. Yeah.
Yes. Let me put. Yeah. So Brother Kaparu have given you a background on himself. So today's topic, he'll be looking, as he said, specifically at Haiti and some of the struggles that's happening down there in terms of, trying to get a democratic platform, and also some background as to how some of the situation that we see in Haiti over the past few years came out, and hopefully what are some of the proposed solutions to solve a lot of these issues that we find down there. So Brother Mario said he'll be talking for about half an hour to 5 minutes, after which we'll open up the floor for questions and comments. So now I'd like to hand it back to Brother Khep Heru.
Give thanks and Satisana Ndugu, Brother Tahaka. I'm reaching back because this was going to be point number 5, because I wanted to cover 4 main points that I agree with my brother, but a fifth point came up right after we finished speaking. I didn't get to tell him about it, but I'm starting backwards. I'm going, so I'm raising this thing and putting it in front of me, and I'm doing this, who comes to mind is Dr. Leonard Jeffries, one of my beloved mentors, and I haven't spoken with them in, oh my goodness, must be 2 decades or no more than that, with Dr. Jeffries, because Dr. Jeffries very seldom spoke without holding something up. Usually it's a book, but I'm holding a poster. And you see, Brother Tahaka, you see the flag that you have representing Haiti.
Yeah.
And on 18th of May, it'll be Haiti Flag Day, and it's a day that Haitians, Haitian family, shall commemorate, and we commemorate the formation of the Haitian flag. And of course, what you're displaying up there, next to the map, is the current incarnation of the flag. And the flag came in different. Of course, in its first incarnation, that story you may have heard, Brother Thalk. Have you heard the story of how the flag was created? What do you know about it?
Vaguely, but I can't remember exactly. I'm not. No, just tell me. I'm digging deep.
All right. It was really in 1803. Yes, it was April 1803. I even wrote, I wouldn't call it a play, but it's something for children to enact about it. It was 1803, and by this time, Toussaint, Father Toussaint, had been captured by the French. He was being, killed slowly in a French jail, in a cold place, and he was deliberately given almost no heat, and so he was dying of pneumonia, up there. In the meantime, still writing and still operating, because he was like that. He kept functioning. But in Haiti, who had taken over the command? The naturally was chosen, to command. Even those who might have grumbled had found they had nothing to say because they could not dispute. It was Jean-Jacques Dessalines, one of his lieutenants, one of his generals, ablest general, his ablest one. And so, there were battles continuously. And so the war was pretty much squared. The two sides were squared away. And at some point, though, I think it was Pétion, one of the other generals, came to say, Commander Dessalines, we don't have we're going to battle with the French flag, actually. So you have French flag against French flag. They carry the French flag. We carry the French flag, which makes no sense. Dessalines said, you're absolutely right. That makes no sense. So they brought him the French tricolor. He said, pass me that. And he tore out, the story goes, the white part of the tricolor. So it became a bicolor, red and blue. And then asked his goddaughter, at least so the law goes, so the story or the folklore, to sew the two pieces together, and then the white one got put into a bin somewhere. So the first flag of Haiti was the red and the black, and they were vertically, yes, they were side by side, not one above the other. So that was April-ish. 1802, or rather, no, May, actually. So May is the time it's commemorated, May 18th of May. So there was the month after. And then, so the battle that was carried into the final, the flag that was carried into the final battle of Haiti was, for Haiti, for independence, was actually the red and blue, of course, in this order, side by side. But come 1805, by then, it was a different ball game. Haiti was properly a country, pulling itself together, and Haiti published its first proper constitution. This is up there is an excerpt of that constitution in the original French, and then of course this is a translation of it, kind of an official translation. And I think this translation was done. I don't think it was done in the U.S. I think it was done in the U.K. The actual translation, so an accurate English translation. And also at the same time, a new flag was instituted. Dessalines said, "We're not a blue people, we're a black people. We're an African people. So our flag will reflect who we are, the black. And then the red will stay red because with the red, we're representing the other people after whom we've named this country, because, Haiti was called Saint-Domingue by the French. At least this 1/3 that we're looking at here, that's called Haiti. But he said, but they called it Haiti. We too will call it Haiti because we are acknowledging them. So that man has such sense of history and of place. So red and black was the Dessalinian flag. How did we get back to red and blue with the white in the middle, smack? Yeah. 1805, Dessalines brings about the Constitution, the Haiti's first constitution, and that's a notable document in itself because it puts forth a lot of heavy-duty stuff. And I'll refer to it in our presentation later on, because there's Constitution involved here in this presentation. And at the same time, a new flag and also a Constitution. Yeah. And so, but that was in 1805. Come 1806, Dessalines was being gunned down. Not only gunned down on the morning, assassinated, but the people who had him gunned down were so really afraid of what this man was able to do. They ensured the assassins were under orders to cut him up, cut out the arms, cut out off the head, cut off the legs, in case the man might rise up and go for them after all the bullets. So, of course, once he was assassinated, the one who was actually at least most vocal about wanting Dessalines dead, which was General Pétion, one of the generals, mixed blood generals, with a strong allegiance to France, he said this black was just too black for the flag, so brought back the blue. And then that white that Dessalines had removed, he had that put back in there. And then, of course, the symbolism in the middle, etc. And so that's the flag that Haiti, still 217 years, well, since 2006, 200 something years later, 215, okay, since now that 2021. And so this flag is the flag actually brought about, this blue and red with the white in the middle, by the murderer of Dessalines. I just wanted to, so every time I see it, I do cringe, even though it is the flag that Haiti is known by. So, but I couldn't let that pass. I had to let us know. So, yeah. And that's point number 5 covered, really. Now to point number 1, and we'll work in sequence this time. So, what's happening in our country today in Haiti? In 7th February, just passed, to most Haitians, to most Haitians, especially those who at least have some respect for the Haitian Constitution, the term of the current president of Haiti came to an end. His name is Jovenel Moïse. Jovenel Moïse, which Moïse is kind of the French version of Moses, yeah, came to an end. And he was supposed to leave office. And if he had not ensured, as it was supposed to, elections to take place in the country, then he would have to allow an interim president to be the case. In fact, several judges of the Haitian Supreme Court told them exactly that. They had at least one of them arrested just for daring to bring that up. And then a whole bunch of other people are arrested as well. People, who knowledgeable about the Constitution. And then there was violence, there were murders, but those were the latest, because there's a string of murders that, again, I have a video clip that I'll show us where a young man who lays it out. He says it in French, but there is an English translation that you'll be able to see, and of course I'll reinforce that myself afterwards as well. So we have a president now who's actually outstaying his term in Haiti, and who intends to stay. He put his foot down. He says his term actually ends next year, not this year. And why is his term over when he's supposed to have a 5-year term, and he actually began his presidency in 2017? So if he actually began, so that means, yes, 5 years, he should be stepping out in 2022, but at the end of this year, as he says. But there's more to it than that. The Haitian Constitution, the one in force right now, that was promulgated, that was put into law, into practice in 1987. In Article 134.2, that article says that if a president has his presidency disputed for a certain amount of time, and he cannot serve during the time that his presidency is being disputed, if he finally is able to resume serving, then his time begins at the start of the dispute, not at the end. That's what that article says. Jovenel Moïse was first elected in December, not 2016, but 2015. But the Haitian people absolutely flatly rejected that election as totally fraudulent. People were bringing ballots, their own ballot that they had cast, having been thrown away, having been partially burned. They were saying, "This is the ballot that I cast," and whoever, it was ordered under some orders to be thrown away so that it could not be counted. And I certainly did not vote for this man. Jovenel Moïse is not de facto, the jure, by law, he is named the president of Haiti. But he is really a president serving at the behest of the United States of America and the rest of the so-called international community. He does what they say. And damn the Haitian people. And any man on the street will tell you that it will go, if you will go on the street, that's what you'll hear. But if you go in the suites, you'll hear something quite different. You'll hear people say, even here in the UK, from the Haitian community here, that, oh, he should finish out his term. They don't really want to hear the rest of it. So after the dispute of his election, so-called election in 2015, it was flatly rejected by the people, to the extent that there had to be an interim president, Mr. His name will come back. But so there was, Haiti was under an interim president, and then that interim president instituted, yes, elections again toward the this November-ish of that year of 2016. And those who wanted Jovenel Moïse in power ensured that he got into power. The former president who had handpicked Jovenel Moïse, the previous one, he's the musician, of course, the entertainer. The people call him Sweet Mickey, and sweet not by his disposition, but sweet as in drunk. And he's a raunchy kind of nightclub performer. His performances tend to feature wearing G-string and bras, etc., and female, undergarment, and very few words that he says are not expletive. So he's somebody, when you want to go all out, when you want to get crazy, he's your man. But he was the one that was, again, people say, selected as the president of Haiti before Jovenel Moïse, and he chose Jovenel Moïse His name is Michel Martelly. People know him as Sweet Mickey, the raunchy entertainer. These are people who the Haitian people would not vote for. Not because anything against him. He's a great entertainer, but would they choose him as their president? Of people who took their independence in war. I don't think we're that like that as a people. Jovenel Moïse, nobody had heard of him before, but Michel Martelly and his handlers chose Moïse, and Moïse had to be the one. So he's the one now. And so he has decided flatly, nope, he only began serving in 2017, and he's going to stick out his year. And who's jumped up to support, to say, yes, that's right, the man's, and perhaps you can tell me, Brother Tahaka, you know who his most vocal support comes from a little bit up north of Haiti. The one who was himself a fresh president, Joseph Biden, president of the United States. But Joe Biden said, no, the man needs to serve out his term. He may have made the statement certainly directly, but he certainly said it through his ambassador in Haiti. Haiti, which holds the fourth largest embassy of the United States anywhere. It's larger than, sometimes you think the thing's going to sink the island because it's so big. You wonder why they need to have such a massive embassy in one of the smaller countries that where they represent. Yes, but that history, and of course, so far as he's concerned, the president, the government, the president of the United States, that's what he decreed. That's what, so far as he's concerned, that's his interpretation of the Haitian Constitution. But there's a history to that, of presidents of the United States having something to say about Haiti's Constitution. And that's what I mentioned earlier, that comes to play, to have a role. But I'm going to leave that and come back to that. Yeah. And that's supposed to be point number, actually, that's point number 4, so I'm touching on that. But point number 2 is Jovenel Moïse as a president in the first place. What's happening in Haiti? Jovenel Moïse has been ruling by decree for the past, is it more than a year? Or I'd say almost 2 years. That means he's the one who makes it. There's no legislature. There were supposed to be legislative elections. He did not hold them. So he decides and he signs off laws. There's no which are called decrees, presidential decrees. Hence, they're not ratified by any parliament. So Haiti does not have a full sitting parliament. There's a few senators here and there, some representatives, but not a full parliament, because those whose terms have ended have not been replaced or re-elected. Now he'll say there's all kinds of reasons why that hasn't been done, or too much unrest, etc. What about the unrest? What's the deal with that? Haiti is suffering from a plague of kidnappings now at gunpoint, and many of them are very bloody, very deadly to the victims of the kidnap. One of the latest ones was the attempted kidnap of I believe he was a university professor, or was he a doctor? One or the other. I think he was a doctor, actually. He was a doctor, known and loved, somebody. And one of the people, Haiti has lots of, excellent doctors, etc. Some of them very well-to-do and charge lots of money. Others are excellent, but also, make sure they serve people, even though they could be making a lot more money than they are. He was sitting in his car, and there's a video of it. I won't show that. I don't know. I have it available, but it was literally pulled out of his, and because maybe he didn't move fast enough, the kidnappers just riddled him with bullets. In fact, somebody came around after they'd gotten back into their vehicle and made sure that he died, that he was dead. And it's dubbed an attempted kidnapping that went wrong, but it feels more like an execution. That maybe they weren't really there to kidnap him, but they were. But you hear kidnapping continuously, and ransoms being demanded, large sums. And if it's women, if they're kidnapped, they're raped as well. And all of a sudden, Haiti wasn't known for that. All of a sudden, here it is. In fact, the last news of kidnapping that happened was a son of a well-to-do one of those the Haitian oligarchy. Surname is Brand. I forget the first name of the young man, and he was found to have been a kidnapper actually and arrested. We don't know what happened to him. He probably didn't. I don't think he's still in jail. I think because of who he was, he might have maybe served some time, and then he might be free now because that was back a few years back. That was maybe a good 5 years or so back. But then that was kind of isolated. But now it's all the rage, and you should see their weapons, the kidnappers. But prior to the kidnappings, it was all about the gangs. All of a sudden, say Haiti is controlled by gangs, well armed. You should see their weaponry, and you say a country that can barely eat. Where do they get the money for these weapons? And but if you speak with the person on the street, they'll tell you, "But come on, these weapons are put in the hands of these gangs. These gangs are formed by the oligarchy of Haiti to foment a state of unrest, to keep the people off the streets, because the people have been on the streets throughout the Moise presidency and even before, because the people were protesting his predecessor. And in fact, his predecessor wanted to do like he does to stay beyond his mandate, but the people would not let him. Would not let Mickey Martelly stay beyond his term. And he knew that people put their hands on him, he'd be gone. So he had to step back. But then again, he made sure he had a clone of himself, but not quite a clone, because whereas he is very flamboyant and very, big with the gab, Moise is more, no, it's not quite as articulate, but he still knows who he works for. And it's not the Haitian people. Who does he work for? Well, when Trump called the Caribbean presidents and president of South America to call them to come in, Moise went running. He was there, and he sicked them. Who did he sick them on? Like you sick your dogs up on Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. And Moise did his duty, spurned Maduro, and yes, and he recognized that fella that the U.S. named as president, the legitimate president of Venezuela. And I'm bringing that particular one up because I know as a Haitian, I felt such a deep shame that a president who claims to represent me could do something this cowardly and this and why was it extra cowardly? Not just because Trump asked him to do it, but what role? And that's just one of his things. The 4 points I'm presenting kind of interweave family in Lugutahaka. So I suppose, even though I wanted to keep things compartmentalized, I find that when you're telling a story, sometimes you can't, because Haiti has a special bond with Venezuela. In the time of, certainly of Maduro's predecessor, the one who's called the Black Man of Venezuela, yeah, and I think he himself called himself that, even though he wasn't that dark. And that's his predecessor, right? Chavez. Chavez ensured it wasn't just Haiti, but he made sure. And Chavez always had wonderful things to say about Haiti because he recognized the role of Haiti, of a self-liberated Haiti, and contributing strongly to the liberation of the rest of South and Central America through people like, of course, Bolivar, that people know well, Simon Bolivar, after whom Bolivia is named. But also prior to Bolivar coming, in the time of Petion actually, but prior to Bolivar came another one, was it Santiago? I can't remember his name, that one. But he was given his support from Dessalines himself. And then Bolivar came years later and got support. But all that support went on to really help South America get its freedom, etc., from the hegemony of Europe, Spain, etc., Portugal. et al. Yeah. And so, what did Chavez do? When the Caribbean needed a bit of help, Chavez was sitting on a pile of oil, and then oil that's been refined into petrol. So he actually gives a loan throughout the Caribbean, and Haiti got a very big piece of that loan called the Petro-Caribe program. Petro-Caribe, Petro for Petro-Caribe for the Caribbean, and Haiti got 4.8 billion US dollars worth of petrol that they could sell, and they sold it, and it did make the money. And that money was meant for development on a major scale: roads, hospitals, schools, and stadia. There's only one on football stadium in Port-au-Prince, and Haitians love their football. South America loves its football. We love our football. And yeah, and then there were tenders for people to bid, for companies to bid, and companies did bid, and they won their bids, and they got paid. And who was among those who tendered the bid? Jovenel Moise and his company. He's supposed to be a major grower of plantain. We call plantain banana in Haiti. We call it banana, but we call it banana fig. You know, it's supposed to be a plantain magnet. And one of the things that Michel Martelly likes to joke about, and the joke is on the Haitian people. Literally, he says, "Yeah, you don't like the plantain, you're gonna get the plantain. You don't like it, you're gonna eat the plantain, whether you like it or not." Basically, what that was his response to the people rejecting um, Moise back in 2015, because when they forced Moise into the government, in spite of the people's wishes in 2016, that's the song that Martelly wrote, pretty much in commemoration of his victory, because he felt he won. He says, "Yeah, you don't like the plantain, you're still gonna eat the plantain." Yeah, and that's what the people are dealing with. A class of people who are literally making fun of the people that they are mistreating. And then, of course, the political party um, that Moise represents, in that Martelly before him. In fact, Martelly helped to found that political party, if not founded himself. It's called the Bald Heads Party. Yes, Haiti is being run by the Bald Heads Party. The same bald heads that our brother our brother, from Jamrock tells us, chase those borders out of town. Well, they need to be chased out of town. So that's what the people try to do. Yeah, but it's a hill. It's a hill to climb. So he's a part of that Petrocaribe, and because that in 2018, that scandal broke when the people found out that people did not know about this. It was barely known, and then the scandal broke that 4.8 billion US dollars that was earmarked for development, poof, vanished. So it made it's all Haitians talk about for an entire year and deep into 2019 as well. But did we family hear anything about this on BBC, on ITV, on Channel 4, on Sky, on even Al Jazeera, that many of us swear by, on CNN, going international? Now, if we didn't hear about it in the States, there's certainly ABC and CBS and NBC when they're going to be, putting it out. But that's what Haitians internationally, where's the mantra was, where's the Petro-Caribe money? And it's still the mantra. And so, of course, Michel Martelly, and the people have been on the street continuously. And at least we heard some of those. Oh, the Haitian people are being violent. We heard that violent stuff. And was it during 2020? There was something. And then, but I think 2019 we saw some. They show us, or rather, the BBC would show us pictures of petrol stations being set alight, and then we hear, that these tourists were being kept. Were being sheltered because they're under such danger. The Haitian people were not going after tourists. We're going after the oligarchy and some of their properties that they could get their hands on, the people who were protecting and shoving Jovenel Moise upon them and forcing it upon them. And so forcing him upon the bald head party upon them. And so lots of protests. But then again, come just in 2019, I think it was 2019, there were these plates of massacres because they had to keep the people off the street. They had to intimidate the people. And there was this massacre in a place called La Saline, where government forces, because that government, of course, is protected by several different military forces under different names, etc. Each of them supposed to have a separate job, but basically to keep them in power. And so they went and they actually wore civilian clothes, but people, some of them were still wearing something, and they butchered a good 500 people or more, or some say it's many more than that. But in one particular La Saline, it was a high number of that. And then they threw the bodies into ravines so you could see pigs eating people's bodies, people's limbs. And in that, when I saw that video, I had to, okay, just, and then, so when because somebody went on their phone in the aftermath to see the pigs, to see people's limbs being eaten by pigs, and that was supposed to be investigated. What investigation? Because people pretty much knew who's doing it. And it's the same people, groups of people, who are now arming these gangs and to maintain a state of terror throughout the country and say, oh, there's so much insecurity, let's put more police on the streets. But now even the police are afraid of these gangs, the underpaid and under, resourced police. And so this is what's governing the country at the moment. Misgoverning the country, you might say. But going back to point number 4, connecting 2021 with 1915, 2021, when you have a U.S. president giving his own interpretation of Haiti's institution. Well, in 2015, many of us in the audience know that they went far further than that, because in 2015, even though the Haitian constitution, and I make an effort not to say Haiti and not to say Haitian, and I do that. I find myself lately, the hate stuff, I find it hard to vocalize because the faultiness of it is hitting me, because we don't call ourselves Haiti and Haitians. We call ourselves Haiti and Haitien. Haitian at the very least, to Englishise it. And so by the same thinking that I bristle when I see that blue and red flag with the white in between, because I have the awareness, I find it's inescapable of who gave us that flag. It was the murderer of the Saline. That 215 years later, we're still saluting that thing. And so, 2015, what did the U.S. do? First of all, I think they maybe assumed that the independence debt, quote unquote, that Haiti was paying to France. And they say, we'll assume it. And so that money needs to be paid to us now so that we can, maybe they bought the debt, I'm not sure. And then the first thing they did was to seize, they descended upon Haiti and seized Haiti's gold reserves that now sit either in Fort Knox or under the Federal Reserve, in New York. Not really sure, the thing is, it's not on Haitian soil. And of course, shortly after that, they disembarked in numbers, the Marines, to take over the country. And of course, who were the Marines that were sent? It wasn't from Rhode Island, etc. It was hardened, racist Marines from the far south, as they could get them. Marines who were hardened, who were lynchers of African people in the States. And that's what they made sure to send to Haiti, who were setting dogs on African people, who had that hunger for African blood. That's what they had. occupying Haiti. And then, of course, there's a certain document that they didn't very much like. It was the Haitian Constitution that said among its tenets, among its key articles, that are there to elevate Haitian people. No foreigner, after that experience of enslavement, of chattel enslavement, no foreigner can come to Haiti and be owner of anything, not even a grain of sand, let alone of swaths of land, of mineral-rich land, of wonderful arable land. So I believe it was it Woodrow Wilson, president at the time, came and took Haitian the Haitian constitution, and that was what he thought of it. And he said, "You need a new constitution." And I believe, or the story goes that he gave that job to FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who claimed that he wrote Haiti a new constitution while he was on a train ride. And according to him, to his boast, because when it became his turn to run for US presidency, I wrote a lovely new constitution for Haiti. And if I do say so myself, it's a lovely piece of work. And you can look that up. Woodrow Wilson boasts about his writing of the Haitian Constitution in 1915. And of course, that clause, among all the others, of course, that would change, of that foreigners couldn't own land in Haiti, was, totally flipped on its head. So now, where you come from, you can come and buy as much as you want in Haiti. And if you have if you know what land has gold under it, has mineral precious things, you can buy it because you come with that money power. So this is, I can more or less leave it here because I know I've thrown a lot and I have jumbled it, even though I wanted to compartmentalize it to have it sequential. But the thing is, these stories are intertwined, they're interlinked, and I would not be doing a service if I didn't, make the connections. But I'm happy to help clarify, etc. So I give thanks. I hope time-wise, I didn't go over too much. Yeah. You're muted, brother. I can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Hold on. Yeah. No, thanks for that. Yeah, time-wise, you're fine. Yeah, we got plenty of time. Yeah. Now there's a short video that you said you wanted to show.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Let me do that then. This is a young brother who's part of this organization, and I only saw it earlier today actually. But he does such a good job, and I thought I would share that with us. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it on.
Are you able to put it on yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Et de quartiers populaires, ce sont ces personnes lors des mobilisations qui descendent dans les rues pour protester, pour demander justice. Notre principale revendication, c'est mettre fin à la corruption. Jovenel Moïse lui-même a dit que le pays a 5 problèmes. Corruption. Et l'autre grande revendication, c'est que nous réclamons le procès de Petro-Caribé. Il faut que les gens qui ont volé ces 4,8 milliards de dollars soient jugés. Où est passé l'argent de Petro-Caribé? C'est ça le mot, c'est ça le slogan. En troisième lieu, on essaie aussi de demander justice pour les soit près de 500 personnes qui ont été massacrées. Nous demandons justice. On réclame le respect de la Constitution. Parce que Jovenel Moïse a violé la Constitution. Jovenel Moïse a essayé de prolonger son mandat et il cherche par tous les moyens de conserver le pouvoir et ils font des répressions. Le monsieur sait. S'il s'en va, on va l'arrêter, on va le juger. Il préfère créer le chaos. Il nous tire dessus, il nous kidnappe il ne peut pas y avoir de prolongement de mandat. Parce que cette constitution qu'on a aujourd'hui, c'est une constitution qu'on a fait dans l'objectif de combattre la dictature qui existait dans le pays et dans les années 57 à 86 avec Jean-François Duvalier et Jean-Claude Duvalier. Et cette constitution était claire qu'il ne peut pas y avoir de dictature encore en Haïti. Et c'est ce que ce monsieur fait. Il installe une dictature dans le pays et les gens qui ont tenté de parler ou de se rebeller, il les tue. Nous avons une phobie de la dictature. C'est dangereux. D'autant plus, nous sommes un peuple qui n'a pas ça dans nos caractères. Nous n'acceptons pas n'importe quoi. Et c'est dangereux pour nous. L'idée, ce que j'aimerais faire comprendre au monde entier, c'est que ce monsieur est soutenu par l'ambassadrice américaine Michelle Sisson. C'est comme si c'était Madame Sisson qui est la présidente du pays. Il nous passe des ordres et si on ne respecte pas ça, on va mourir. Permets-moi de lancer cet appel parce que je sais que Haïti a beaucoup d'autres pays amis. Il est clair que les États-Unis est un pays ennemi dans le sens qu'ils soutiennent les massacres, ils soutiennent les crimes économiques.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, Brother Haka, how did you find that? Did you find that were you able to keep up with the? I know, as a rule, subtitles can go just too fast, but this one seemed a bit more reasonable in that it more or less helped to tell the story, and hopefully, because I could see the points I was making, he was making as well.
Yes, yes, yeah, they were very helpful.
And one thing he explained was that the Constitution having that clause about, you serve your term is 5 years, whatever happens in between, and it was again to stop people from extending their term because they feel like it. And he made reference to the Duvaliers who actually extended that term for life. Both him and his son. So it was again in response to that. And speaking of the Constitution, I wanted to. There's one point that I wanted to make. This date, 29th March. Oops, it's in red. Never mind. Kindly, family, keep this date in mind, and I'd like to reiterate that toward the end as well, because 29th of March, excuse me, and that's the thing I was trying to confirm all day by trying to speak with people in Haiti and even in the States, and I did get some confirmation. Happens to be the date that the 1987 Constitution was ratified. The Constitution that contains clause 134.2, which puts clear guidelines on the terms of presidents. And people are holding to that because Bartelli said, no, he is within the Constitution. People say, no, you are not. Joe Biden of the U.S. president, say he is within the Constitution. We say, no, he is not, and it is not your business. Now, I understand there will be major demonstrations in Haiti, and each demonstration people are saying we would like it to be the one that unseats this man. And what the people in Haiti are asking for is international solidarity on that day. What comes to my mind is something that I've done twice so far, which is to demonstrate in front of the U.S. Embassy. The first time was during the after the earthquake, when the U.S. had actually taken over the airport and actually stopping rescuers from rescuing people, from landing and rescuing people with equipment. For some reason, they felt it. Yeah, let's let some more Haitians die before we make an effort to rescue them. That was my first demonstration, and the second one was a couple of years afterwards. But I think the U.S. being one of the putting itself squarely in support of this man who's violating our Constitution, it might be a good idea for us here in the UK to address them directly. It may be that I may be the only one out there holding my little placard saying, US, Mr. Biden, you are president of the United States of America, not of Haiti. You don't interpret our constitution for us. But of course, it would be very good if some of us were able to be there. Now, it's a Monday, and uh, I believe well, no, I know I'm supposed to be on the plantation on that day, but I don't know that I can allow that to happen. I don't know that I need to make arrangements not to be in that place, but to be where I should be, which is in front of the embassy. Now, the other thing, of course, supposedly during this time of lockdown, supposedly you're not supposed to protest. I'm happy to protest 2 meters away, from anybody. So I'm thinking it may take a different form, our solidarity, but wouldn't it be something if the people on the ground in Haiti knew for a fact that in London and maybe other parts of the country, of this country, there were people on that day who were giving them whose hearts were with them. Nothing. Haitians want to do the work, but it just helps you so much better to do the work so much more when you know that your family is in solidarity with you. So I'd like people to keep that in us family keep that date in mind, and then as we work through over the next few days what's to be done, we will make sure the family is well informed and yeah, etc.
Okay. All right. I'm just looking for some points. There's one here. Say that. It said if Haiti had a North American side's constitution rather than a Latin American side's constitution, they would have been better off. I don't know what you think.
First of all, I want to thank our brother Kofi for his attention and also for his interest and for his engagement. That's the word. To be quite honest, it's interesting for me that our points of reference pretty much all the time is the West. Whether it's for example, the heading for this program, Haitian struggle for democracy and freedom. Democracy makes me bristle these days when I hear that word, because all I hear is West, 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 as if we are devoid as a people of models of governance, of self-governance. Where do we come from? Civilizers don't think that way. We are the civilizers of this planet. We are their descendants. And like it or not, we are them. And if we don't have the knowledge that they had, the understanding that they had, we need to go get it. We need to look for it and find it, because the idea of using these creatures as our models for anything, even the best of what they have to offer, for me personally, is become anathema. It's not something that I want to consider. In fact, it angers me when I'm being told, when it's proposed to me that that's the only way that I can go. I would like to know how Akhenaten, King Zoser, I'd like to, and those who I don't know, the Candace Queens, I'd like to know how they organize the governance of their countries. I don't want to know about constitution of this creature, of that creature. Forgive me and I'm trying to keep the fire manageable. And I'm remembering what Ndugu Imani said. We're moving by thought and not by emotion. Emotion, though, is not to be killed. Emotion is to be used as energy. And my emotion tell me, but not my emotion. My ancestors are, to me, as I feel them, they're saying, they're not your. So we don't want statism. We don't want any version of their constitutions. The one that Jean-Jacques Dessalines at the very end of a war of independence. Let's look at that. Haiti's #1 constitution of 1805. Before, so we don't know much about it. Well, you're hearing about it today. I created this poster, even though it's not really that you have to use a magnifying glass to read it. Although I got this on the internet, I had to dig it, scratch, but it's there. Yeah, it's actual. It's an old, this was done. I think the copyright is, I can't see what the year, but we have the models. Let us not turn to the West, any set, whether it's Marxist ones or capitalist, for models. Let's look for our models to shape our governance of our nation or African nation. So yes, forgive me if my answer seems unsatisfactory or if it sounds maybe non-responsive. I don't mean to be like that, and I appreciate your question, but that is my response. None of them. I want none of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need them.
Now, another point you mentioned, when the Americans came into Haiti, they took the gold from Haiti and stashed it somewhere in America. He said it could be in New York, it could be somewhere else. Fort Knox, yeah. Now, the Haitian governments down the ages, have any of them ever approached the United States and asked for the repatriation of that gold?
I can tell you that most of what have passed for governments in Haiti wouldn't. Why would somebody working for the United States ask the United States to do some justice to Haiti? They wouldn't. And I can tell you that those who would have thought to do that are not presently either dead or almost, they might as well be dead. One example is Jean-Bertrand Aristide, aka Father Aristide, former priest, excommunicated by the Vatican for daring to preach liberation theology for his people, for saying, I just don't want to just talk about justice for people. I want to just enact it, and so yeah, and so he's in Haiti now, pretty much under house arrest largely, because the alternative is death. And they say, even if you're not afraid for your death, but we'll kill your children, or we'll kill so many of your people, you're gonna have to give in. And so you better not say one political word, and he doesn't, because he's under threat of death, not necessarily of his own. If he's not afraid for his own life, then others. So yes, of course, you take my my wealth, my gold, my mineral wealth. I need to have it back. But these creatures are not working for our people. So no, they wouldn't ask for it. And those who would ask are not are not elected or not selected. When the people elect them, the ballots disappear or not counted, as
Okay.
was the case with this fellow. Yeah, there was a President Estime as well, Dumas Estime, who was another one who's I think he came just before. Yeah, it was in between. It was was he 40s to 50s? Again, it was a president that had some pride in him, but he didn't last very long. Again, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, status of that gold in terms of is it recognized that it still belongs to Haiti, or has it just been totally usurped?
To be quite honest,
American?
I'd like the answer to that question as well. Is it something that is still there for us to retrieve? I wouldn't put money on it. The fact is, speaking, what when you mentioned the gold, it brought something else to my mind. Right now, the US dollar is, I think, equivalent to about, is it 80 Haitian goods? Yeah, 1 to 80 ratio. And it's supposed to be one of those, the Haitian goods, still, I guess, one of the stronger currencies in the Caribbean and South America, compared with others, you know, because you have a Guyana dollar, or rather a pound, for example, and it's about 100 pounds, 100-ish pounds. Or, well, excuse me, 1 pound gives you about 100 Haitian goods, whereas Haitian dollar would give you about 80. I can check it now, in fact, because it may be different. It was actually more outrageous than that a couple of years. It was just last year, actually. It was going crazy, and then when they saw that the people were really taking to the street, because if it had remained, because at one time it was equivalent, it took about 100 goods to make a US dollar, right? And yet, so the prices of things kept going up, and people eating was becoming very difficult. And Brother Bob Marley would say, "A hungry mob is a hungry mob." And had they artificially left it at that, Jovenel would be, if not out of the country, he might not be alive. The people would brave bullets, yeah, to get at him. And so, I can check the value for that. But at one time, the good was on par, direct par with the US dollar. $1 was worth one Haitian good at one time. But to see the devaluation of our, the artificial devaluation of our currency, and that has directly, because the Haitian good was backed by what? Gold. Before before the theft of our gold reserves.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's another point I wanted to bring up as well. You mentioned about the reparation, if you want to call it that, he had to pay to France. And I think you said there's a feeling now that France should be paying that back to Haiti.
And of course, that same president I mentioned, President Aristide, did exactly that. He demanded that France return this money. Very politely, yeah, we demand that we bring it because we need it, and you were not entitled to it. He did that. I don't know what time in 2003 he made that demand. By February 2004, he was out of power. He was literally kidnapped out of the Haitian palace, presidential palace, and flown by U.S. Marines, flown to
Was it
CAR, Central African Republic, and deposited there, and then left, and then they left him. Who came to rescue, to pick him up from there, was his friend, Brother Mbeki, Brother Thabo Mbeki, president of Azania. And then he was able to stay there in exile because he was forbidden by the U.S. from returning to Haiti. And of course, the U.S. and backed up by their lackeys in Haiti, who run the place. And so he made that demand. So so this is what, when you demand that, that's what happens to you. Either that, or you're dead, or you're murdered, or you have an accident or something.
Okay. Just looking. There was a couple more points, but in the meanwhile, one of the things that's always fascinate me about Haiti, although Haiti is, you can say, in the Caribbean, what do I want to say? Do you think American pressure that there do not seem to be any kind of big coalition with other Caribbean islands in terms of where Haiti is concerned.
I would think, like, from my take of the situation, I would say that's exactly, or at least the major pressure. Haiti is pretty much kept on the glass in many ways.
Yeah.
Uh, Now all of a sudden, an entity that we won't even go there now. Yeah, for this session, an entity called the Dominican Republic suddenly springs up right alongside Haiti. Where'd that come from? What's that about? When Toussaint Louverture actually liberated Africans throughout the island, the Spanish controlled part and the French controlled part. Remember, the Spaniards were the first ones to get whooped by the Haitian revolutionaries. Yes, to be defeated. Spain was defeated. They were, and so and Africans used their acumen to play all these jackals once against the other. The jackals being France, Spain, and Britain. Because when you're trying to do enslaving human beings on a massive scale, and you colonizing, taking over a territory that had a bunch of people on it in the first place. That's the Caribbean. Carib, named after Carib, full of Tainos, full of Arawaks, and you murder them. And then you bring in a workforce, forced work. And then, so you are, and I'm giving jackals a bad name because jackals are creatures of nature. They do what they do so they can survive. These people do it so they can get power over. And so Spain was the first jackal to get whooped. And all of a sudden, and then Britain was next, because Britain saw a free for all. We have the most organized army. We can take care of this and be done by lunch. And I think was it 25,000 troops that they left on Haitian soil dead because they underestimated the Africans. So they were the next ones. And then of course France got the last lick. And then all of a sudden Spain is there now, and there's a Spanish speaking major taking over 2/3 of the place of the island, and that's prospering way over, leaving Haiti in the dust. Well, because we're so incompetent, us Africans, we don't know how to run. I mean, look, those people are good at telling their lies, and they can make them very believable. But our human sense must tell us something, is not quite right. Something doesn't smell quite right here. So the U.S. has been a major force in bringing about this thing called, forgive me, yeah, I know it's a country full of people, called the Dominican Republic, that that makes sure that they humiliate and kill Haitians at every turn. And because that history just runs through me, so you see me talking about it like this, and so and I have to literally, because I breathe, so I don't not to get really angry and sad and heartbroken about the relationship of this entity to Haiti. The massacre that in fact the river that runs right alongside the so-called border is called the River Massacre because at one point it ran red with Haitian blood, and that was just after the occupation by the Americans, because they murdered some 30-odd thousand Haitians. They play around with the numbers, but it was tens of thousands that they killed. Just out of some kind of hatred. And that continued. What did they do not too long ago? They hung this young Haitian boy from a tree, Southern-style lynching. Why? And then and they're marching Haitians now by whipping them as if tying them up. And it's this, where's this evil coming from? To treat, and they don't look too much different from us. But there's a bit more lightness, I suppose. That same thing that happened in South and Central America, where they made sure they lightened the population first by killing off black people, and then also by bringing in more white people, so that to mix, so that now people are grateful that that their skin comes out like this rather than like this. And you have paintings showing a grandmother holding a almost white-looking baby grandchild. Oh, so grateful, thank you, heaven. It's one of the classic paintings of South America. Because this one will will escape the suffering. Anyway, let me stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking for a few more.
But I was thinking that the DR is actually deliberately fed and fattened, so that it plays a role in the Caribbean actually, but certainly on Haiti, the role that Israel plays. And I'm betraying my my sensibility. Yes, in the so-called in Western Asia, so-called Middle East, Israel is there as the guard dog to keep everybody in line, armed to the teeth, nuclear armed. Whatever they want, they get, because they play their role and they play it to a T with their ferocity against the Palestinians and the neighboring countries, which themselves can be very racist against Africans, but to show that just how Jordan, whichever one they bomb them and airstrike, bang bang, don't you dare even look dirty at us, we'll move on you. And Dominican Republic is playing a similar kind of comparable, I'd say, role, certainly where Haiti is concerned.
Okay. Okay, there's another point. Well, yeah, we could look at briefly. It's the same brother Kofi Campbell talking about how did Haiti get old in the first place from productivity, and they can be really.
Yes, Brother Campbell, we can replenish gold reserves, and we can also mine our abundant copper, our abundant bauxite. We can also mine our almost exclusive iridium, spaceship material, which at least I understand is the remnant of a meteor strike 65 million years ago in that region. And the only lesser source of iridium on the planet, I believe in Southern Africa. But Haiti is, and you don't hear about it. And you hear stories. Oh, I saw for myself a convoy of UN trucks coming in the wee hours of the morning. I was leaving Jeremy, southern Haiti, which is on the southern tip. If I take my, you probably won't see, but where the word live stream is even going further out, that's Jeremy. And I was coming back from there, going to Port-au-Prince, where the red dot is, like at the heart and the belly of Haiti. Yeah. And then I was on a coach, and I saw this. It's almost like they were sneaking out of the region. What are they carrying? A convoy of like lots of them, couple dozen UN big white vans and 4x4s with UN on them. What are they carrying? Why are they carrying in the middle? Late in the middle wee hours of the morning, 1 a.m. to where are they going with it? But we understand that the iridium is being mined. It's Iri what? Iri who? Yeah, because just things we don't the most effective tool, I could say weapon of the West is the way it only brings out what it wants us to hear, and things it doesn't want us to know about. It simply doesn't say, and we won't even believe it when somebody else tells us about it. That IT is rich in mineral, is rich in iridium, and yes, we have the gold. But of course, yeah, we can get back and mine it with what, my brother? You know who owns the gold, the mining regions? Foreigners, or they take these what they call it, conventions. These is contract that they have with the government, where basically they say, we'll mine it, we own it, you get a kickback, you politician. The country gets not point not but a percent, which doesn't. And even when that goes in the coffers, the politicians take it as well, or that oligarchy takes it. So Haiti is being broken, but the person doing it is doing it, keeping your attention on something else while they're doing it. Haiti used to feed herself and then feed rest more the parts of the Caribbean. Now we import even our rice because the tariffs were lifted. The tools, the economic tools that are used to crack a country, break a country, have been used glibly, giddily in Haiti. And I'm just learning about them myself. And so these things, the thing is, you may not know specifically what's being done to a people, but if you know that people stood up and faced down the three world powers of that time, just about a couple of 100 years ago, and if you see them on their belly, on their face now, then something else, you must tell you something happened to those people. To have done what they did and to be where they are today, something happened or is happening. You might not know what it is, but your sense must tell you there's something that's wrong. Sometimes when you do something's wrong, you're not quite sure what it is, but at least you know something's wrong.
Yep. Wow. Okay, I want to bring up a point now. I mean, there was a point at which Haiti was supposed to be given membership of the AU, or did it have observer status? There was something that Haiti was to become a member of the AU. Now, what happened there?
Um, I don't know the specifics, or if I know it, they've got from my head. But one thing that instance where at one point, some people are for it, etc., and all of a sudden, oh, sorry, it can't happen. So who talked to who? Who said, that thing you were about to do, you're not going to do it? To me and to many others, it said something about who controls the African Union. Is it Africans? Where do they get their orders from as to who to admit and who not to? And who's being considered for membership? You must know, brother, who vied for membership, and they haven't quite gotten it yet, but they may get it. Yeah, brother, what you were about to say?
Yeah. I just wanted to get that on the
I've
table.
said just earlier. What do they have to do with Africa? And how do they treat Africans in that country? Where they do make it in there. But yeah. So somebody talk to somebody. And I know how that sounds, and I know we some of us are so used to having things on that platter, to having things being logical and probable and being improvable. And show me the evidence, show me this. Okay, I'm sorry, I gave you what I have. I would love to show or evidence, of things. But sometimes I don't have it. What I have is this, and this, and some of this, a little bit. At least I got, some. And then even when I don't know exactly what, but I can see the you know, the end result, where it's going, and whose interest it's occurring. And uh, and I like to think that I'm being ancestrally guided in that way, and I'm grateful. It's painful as heck, but also it's not killing me though. It may send me mad. I don't think so. But seeing this situation for what it is, it's difficult. Not, I mean, I don't know exactly what we're going to do about it. And that's the other thing, is we like to have the answers. No, we don't. We don't always get the answers immediately, and maybe it's because we need to look at the thing further and try to get a good idea what we're dealing with. than we already have.
Yep. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned the situation with Chavez when he was alive in power in Venezuela, and that Haiti and Venezuela was quite close in that relationship that developed there. Now, in terms of what say Chavez was able to do or was willing to do, I say on behalf of Haiti, what was your recollection in terms of the kickback on the island? Because as I say, a lot of the strategic areas in Haiti is now under foreign control. And we could mention a lot of Pacific people in the United States who own vast tracts of Haiti. Now, when Chavez came into the picture, you know, as somebody who's willing to hold out a hand to Haiti, what was your recollection in terms of the kickback of the United States during that time?
I don't, to be honest, I did not know when that was happening. I came to know about the Petrocaribe situation in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after the money had done its disappearing act. I do remember reading something about, of course, the U.S. opposed it. And the U.S. Now, do I know that they had a hand in helping the disappearance happen? And do I know for a fact that a lot of that money is sitting right now in U.S. banks under these accounts? I don't know. Just it's occurring to me, but my heart is telling me what else is going to happen. Some of it probably in Swiss banks as well. You know, U.S. and Swiss banks probably, you know, most of that money could, or in the shape of purchased properties in different places. Some of them even the Dominican Republic. So that money is about. But the U.S. The fact is, if you do, if there, I challenge all of us here to do some research, because you'll find that the U.S. actively opposed this, but they couldn't stop it. That's the thing. They can oppose. Them can always stop everything. But of course, the other team was there. Team theft, team fraud, team embezzlement, to make sure that the Haitian people never saw it. Of course, you know that after the earthquake as well, a lot of money was collected. Mm-hmm. And who was there to manage that collected money? Come on, the team, that lovely team, husband and wife and daughter. The big C, that's right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Team C. That money disappeared, and then to the extent where there's a film made. Where did the money go? I think that was the title of the film. Where did the money go? And I remember being on a panel at down, you know, Royal Festival, thereabouts area out there. I think it's Royal Festival Hall. Yeah. After that film, I didn't even get to see the film. I'd seen pieces of it. I'd seen it actually in piecemeal prior to that, but the actual screening, I wasn't even a part of the major, you know. But then I knew the content of the film, and so yeah, on the panel with the filmmaker himself, was it? Did he make that? Yes, I think it was a Haitian filmmaker. And then Brother Cecil, I think, was there as well. And so yeah, talking about again, you know, who made sure that that money never really touched the ground in Haiti. It was that couple, that power couple. One is a former president, the other one would have been president but didn't quite make it, and of course, it was the ghost of that visited that attempted presidency. And I don't know that I could say the defeat of that candidate, that U.S. candidate, presidential candidate. I don't know that I could lay at the feet of Haitians, but I think Haiti had something to do with it. The memory of what was stolen from Haiti, and the fact that her opponent used it to his advantage. Yeah, and then so I'm not naming names. Since you're not naming names, brother, I'm not naming names either.
Okay.
The people, our family knows who we're talking about.
Yes, I think everybody's
In fact,
quite
there was pay
clear.
for play, or pay for play. If you wanted a contract in Haiti to build anything, you had to go through that couple. And of course, you went and you got your money and you didn't build nothing. You did the same. So that succession of scandals to cripple a country, to make sure it doesn't have a mining infrastructure. My brother who said we could mine, yeah, what we have. Yeah, we have. Haitians are hardworking, my brother. They're hardworking, slugging. And you don't see very many tractors in Haiti, but you'll see pickaxes and shovels and rakes because we do our thing by hand. We would love to do the tractors, but it's not happening. If you try to import a tractor in Haiti, it'll be seized, it'll be stolen, it'll be if you try to because the people, the oligarchy controls our ports, they control our customs, they are choking us, my brother, my sister, my family who are here. This stuff has to change. It is not a superficial a paint. This place has to undergo another revolution.
Hmm.
And
That's
talk about,
true.
yeah, voting, little democracy, and this and that. We need serious overhaul.
Yeah. Now, when I put a question to you, I mean, the Haitian Revolution took place in what, 1804. And like you said, the world powers at that time were all brought to their knees by Haiti. Now, the question is, do you think since that event happened, I'm looking more on the psychological level, taking God, Britain, America, Spain, France, all of them. Do you think psychologically that inflicted such damage to them? That is the reason why they are determined for Haiti not to rise. Every attempt Haiti have made to move forward in any way, they have been combated by these people and deliberately held back. We had a situation, I think it was 1913, where the US actually physically invaded Haiti, if I'm right. And also the
Yes,
US stood as a guarantor for Haiti to pay that money back to France. They forced
yep.
Haiti to continue paying that money. So on a psychological basis, do you think that event took place in 1804 is still playing on their minds? The reason why I'm saying that, just to the north of Haiti, we're at 40 to 50 million Africans, say within the borders of the United States. And obviously, they don't want the situation to see Africans again rising and doing for self. So that plays a big role uh, that Haiti is where it is because of the paranoia, basically, that's going on in the minds of these people.
Uh, Brother Tahaka, I would call it paranoia. I would call it sheer, steely determination. There is a determination on the part of those who hold the reins of power, certainly in this part of the world, that this nation called Haiti will not rise. So, and and as much as many of us feel, no, no, come on, people don't think like that. That thing happened years ago, and I cannot. I'm losing my ability to argue, a point over and over with, in my willingness to, not that, and that's because for a long time, I'm only thinking the way that I'm thinking now. I mean, I grew into it, the way I'm seeing things. And I think perhaps we all need to go through our journey of growth and of understanding, overstanding, understanding, as I'm hearing from some of our family of things. And then see things, let things develop before us, but really let things develop inside us. So I have no doubt that that country to represent the kind of example that's certain. Those who want to maintain their stranglehold over this planet cannot allow Africans to have, because Haiti is Africans. Haiti is Africa. It was Africans who did what was happening in Haiti. The blessed Tainos, they were gone. They were done away with. There were few who remained in the mountains, and who at least counseled the Haitians, the Africans, excuse me, there. Yeah. So that Jean-Jacques Dessalines, when Haiti gained her independence, saying, okay, no more Saint-Domingue. What shall we call this place? Let us call this place in honor of those who were here before and who were taken in the way they were taken. He put that in the Declaration of Independence. Henceforth, this place shall be known as Haiti, which was one of the three names that the Taínos, the Arawaks, gave to that country. Haiti, land of beautiful mountains. Quisqueya, beautiful land. And then another name called Boyo, which to me goes right here, because I really love that name. It means home. Home. We chose Haiti. Yeah. And so to think that we've been encouraged to think that human beings have no memory, that civilizations have no memory, or they just they look forward, they don't look back. Come on, family. On the contrary, we, the ones who don't look back, we'd better look back and look inside for the models for our governance in our African continent, in global Africa. Yeah. And see creatures, allow us to see creatures for what they are, not so much who, but what, who are capable of almost anything, who will enslave even their mother if they feel they have to. They're certainly enslaving Mother Earth, poisoning her. Now they're looking to go to Mars because they want done with her, and they go and rape another planet. And some of us think it's so exciting. Oh, wow, let's go join them in that. We need to think. Pull back the brakes. I love my science. I am a science educator, but I'm learning not to run away with it. People go, why are they bringing it with them into the universe, outer space? Not that spirit that did what it did to my people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we draw the end now? So I'd like to pose a question, because you mentioned an event coming up on the 29th of March. Represent a certain specific event. Now, the question is, how do you think in general, especially the Africans, when I say Africans, I'm talking about Black people in general. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the most effective way they could show solidarity and support to Haiti, to what it's going through?
Okay, brother, thank you for that question. We're not the ones with the weaponry. We don't even have the automatic weapons, the automatic rifles, let alone the drones, the nuclear tips, the nuclear subs, the battle, the aircraft carriers, and the marvelous war machines, war planes that can, that even shine your shoes for you. They're so sophisticated. While you go and murder, we don't have those. But we didn't have those in 1803, from 1791 to 1803. Independence was won in 1803. 1804 was the commemoration, the celebration of that, January 1st. But we had something here, determination. And it was far more steely determination, far more final than their determination then, than their determination now. We can decide in our hearts that we are with our brothers and sisters in Haiti. They're not Haitians, they're Africans. They just happen to be called Haitian because they're in Haiti. Africans like we are Africans. And we can just, I believe, I'm beginning to believe that of a determination in our very hearts, and feeling, letting ourselves feel it, that I am with my people in Haiti, and I want them to get rid of that monster who's that lackey of monsters who is trying to, who's ruining the place. I want them to find their feet, to form their governance. That's what I want. And if it means come the 29th, if there's a gathering that I need to be a part of, I'm going to do my best to be a part of it. And I'll tell my family about it. Or in Bristol, I'll give it to my brethren over in Birmingham. And because if we have a gathering, excuse me, in front of the American embassy, there'll be some white people there. There's some people who feel others championing, not very many, but there's some. The Haitian support group is a bunch of white academics for the large part. There's some, I'm one of the blacks, and there's one other. The chair is a sister, but she's actually located in. We're very international, located in South America now. She's a sister, British born, black sister, but she's doing she's doing with academics. There be some, because the academics sometimes they demonstrate as well, but so our people want to know some of us are with them, but of course it gives a special hit when we can feel it's our African brothers in the UK who are supporting us. Maybe marching in Brixton, even if it's not the U.S. Embassy or something, or even if not march, but doing something that can make itself heard to our family there. So organization of some kind, because we know if we want to figure out how to show solidarity, we can knock it out among ourselves. I'm not sure exactly what's the best way. I told you what I think is a possible way of doing it, which involves, making, some of them unhappy rather. And hey, something? I'm not here to make them happy, Yes, they may want to arrest me. What was it? Last time I was arrested, I was a child on the way my way to school, and I took a different means of transport that I wasn't supposed to, and that's when I was arrested. But looks like, I don't know, maybe it's in my cards now to be, but I'm feeling the 29th is a crucial time when we need to show solidarity like we've never shown before to our family in Haiti. And I don't know, we'll see how it happens. I'm mainly looking to what I do, because I need to make sure I can't control what the rest of us do. I can suggest if somebody asks me, and if I can put together something, that I think we might want to have a listen to, etc. I might, and I will certainly keep us informed. But that our solidarity for Haiti comes from here. Yeah. So if it's coming at all. So yeah, that's what I like to say. So yeah, if there is something organized, I will make sure
Okay.
the family knows about it. And the time is short. Today is the 14th. So the 29th is 15 days away. So it's not very many days. So yeah. In the meantime, we have to live. I have to go and do my teaching, etc., and to keep the bills paid, etc. We all have to do those obligations. But yeah, there's a bit of thinking, a bit of planning. Yeah.
Right. Okay, then, Brother Mario. So, name. So, Khep Heru. Yeah, but thank you for that enlightening. Because you see, one of the things I would say, just to sum up, with Haiti, I say we're all in the Caribbean. I'm myself from Jamaica, which is not that far away. And yet, when I was growing up, Haiti seemed so distant. It was something that was never talked about. Everybody talked about Cuba and everybody talked about the other islands, but somehow Haiti got overlooked. And I still look at the Caribbean and see that it's still the case to some extent, that for whatever reason, there's never much emphasis put on Haiti. That's why I'm thinking there's a battle going on this side level, in that even governments, other governments of the Caribbean are partaking in that they put no emphasis or no credence when it's come to Haiti. I think it's just a fall in line with the political masters in Washington, D.C. They do that. And so that's why I was thinking, how can we help? I mean, to me, there's going to be an about turning the minds of the people to one. I mean, some of the film 1804, I think, did a lot just to bring to light a lot of what happened in Haiti, and a lot more has to be done. And also, for example, many times people, as you know, Dominican Republic, as you say, next door, it is now major destinations. You know, kind of tourist attraction destination. I've come across so many people say they're going on their holiday, and where you're going, Dominican Republic. You know, and yet it's like it never crossed their mind that, well, I could cross the border and go into Haiti. So to me, you know, they've been that's what I meant in a push like that. So when I'm actually visiting Caribbean places, Haiti should be on our list. Why not? You know, that is more, there's a lot more interaction. And there was one question somebody asked in the chat as well. There was asking about the size of the Haitian community within the UK. Is the large Haitian community here?
I wouldn't call it large, but it's not insignificant. And unfortunately, there is a marked conservatism within that community. I'm not saying it's totally conservative, but there is a kind of unwillingness to stick people's necks out, and you know, and I find that, and that's my family here. That's, you know, that's why I get to see this. Why, you know, I really enjoy being when I'm with them, etc. Because, you know, just live our Haitianness. But I find when it comes to matters political, to matters even traditionally spiritual. But yeah, they're here. We're here. There's a Haitian restaurant. You can get some lovely Haitian food and get a good taste of what you like to. In Acton, beautiful place. Wonderful brother runs it. Yeah, forward-looking brother. But yeah, he's a good friend of mine. There's Haitian presence in Leeds, and that one is a mystery because there's a lot more I don't even know about coming through Turks and Caicos. So the Haitian community here is a lot more extensive than I even, you know, suspect. I've just learned recently, or been learning in the past couple of years, and they keep themselves low profile. What's that? Seriously?
Yeah, because that's definitely the case. You know, it's a very low profile. That, I mean, apart from myself, I'm not aware of any other Asian, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, in this country where I know there must be a lot more. So that's why I'm saying things like that. Even something as basic, like when they had the carnival and there were different floats representing the different islands.
There wasn't one for Haiti. No? Yeah, and that's just
there
being
was
discussed.
no.
Yeah, it's been
discussed. Things like that. Just to have a visible presence that other African people know that you exist and can gravitate towards.
We may not be as far away from that as so that, because now Haiti now has an embassy in the UK, which apparently there was a 60-year gap since it was 60 years since the last embassy was put together in the UK, and there's an embassy. There's been one since just after the earthquake. I'd say 2012-ish. They began, it opened, and so it doesn't have a full ambassador, but it has a chargé d'affaires, which is something less, you know. And so there's a, you know, who knows where it goes, you know. But that's all. To be quite honest, I'm not saying that I don't care that there shouldn't be more Haitians, etc. But if there's two Haitians and they're representing our African family in Haiti, bang. But if there's 200, 2,000, 200,000, and they're sort of keeping themselves to themselves, to be what do those numbers mean? You know what I'm saying? As far as I'm concerned, a country that's undergoing what it's undergoing. So you see, numbers is one thing, but what you do is
Yeah,
quite
it's true.
something
It's,
else.
it's, it's what's been done. Okay. Okay, Brother Keperu, we're running out of time now. Nduguman is here. But just before Nduguman comes on, I'd just like everybody to make a note in the diary. And that's Africa Liberation Day. As you know, Africa Liberation Day is something that the Pan-African Congress movement has been doing since its founding in 1975 was the first year of Liberation Day. And it has been faithful in this occasion ever since. So this year on the Sunday the 30th and Monday the 31st of May, PS again be celebrating this occasion. And the theme you can see for this year's Pan-Africanism, building for 22nd century. So as we go by, I will be updating you a lot more in terms of what's going on and in terms of a lineup of speakers and different activity and so forth. So until then, please just mark the diary and make sure you'll be around to partake in it. With this situation of the pandemic last year, we had to do it online. It very much seems to be that will be the case in this year. But one of the good things that it gave us online, it gave us the ability to reach right out across the Pan-African world, bringing speakers from all over, from the Caribbean, Africa, South America, wherever, which normally in celebration we wouldn't have been able to have had that array of international speakers. So the year 2020 went down very, very well, and we are hoping to surpass that this year. So again, just please keep those dates in your diary, and there will be further updates soon. So at this moment, I'll be talking to Gramani, who will be ending the session as the way we started by changing the energy levels for us again. So into Gramani.
Yes, Santi Sana, indeed.
Yes.
Santi Sana, Ndugu Khep Heru, again, another enlightening, passionate, and informed breakdown of what is happening in Haiti, with in the past and in the future, making that link, and so that we can understand, and so how we can contribute and assist our brothers and sisters in Haiti in their continual fight for freedom, and to get back to the empire of freedom that Dessalines put in place. Haiti is a clarion call for all of us in the African world. As I'm sure, as the brother was saying, that Dessalines said, well, if anybody who was a slave put their feet in Haiti, they were free. No one, exactly, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, no one, past or present, has created such a thing. And Haiti was the culmination of African ideas, African spirituality, African power. And so Ndugu Tahaka and Ndugu Khep Heru have explained why Haiti is in the situation it is. And it's about us coming together. And one of the big parts of us coming together is our culture. And our culture is our spirituality. And that's the foundation of that. It doesn't mean that we don't have to work. It doesn't mean that we don't have to organize. It doesn't mean that we don't have to fight. But it means that it's based in our true strength and power. And so that is why we begin in this way and we end in this way. because knowing that this is where we will draw our strength. When we can't find a way, our higher self will find that way for us. When we can't think of the solution, our higher self, the creator, will find that solution for us. We just have to trust, let go of the programming that has been in our people, and contact our power that is within us. It isn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't stopped. We are not separated from it. We just have to shake off the mental shackles, as Bob Marley said, and connect with ourselves, and all things will fall into place. We are not a people bound by time. We are a people who experience time, but we're not bound by it. We have connections with our ancestors all the way to the first ancestor, the creator. And from that, we can change the world as we did in Haiti. It wasn't just brilliant strategy. It was because they were using Rodon. Is why they were able to do something that shook the world and has not been replicated since. And so it can be done again. The only thing that limits us is our own mind. Whatever you think of, whatever your highest excitement is, whatever you dwell upon is what you would create. And if you are thinking of liberation, if you're thinking of power of ourselves, of bringing balance, that is what you have. If you live in fear, if you live in negativity, if you live in that there is no hope, that is what you create. The universe will obey your commands. What our people were able to do was to vision something that no one thought they could vision, freedom. And so they did it in an incredibly quick time, 1791 to 1804, and defeated all the world powers. It is more powerful and more amazing than any liberation movement that's ever been. And it can be done again. It's only our will that will stop us from doing that. So, in that vein, let us end in our power and get comfortable with ourselves in our power. And don't be scared of ourselves, and respect ourselves and our power, because it's just there waiting for us to hold it and grab it. That's all that's waiting for us. There's no barrier to this power. The only barrier is what we have in our own mind and what we have in our own hearts. That is the only barrier. So, in that vein, we share my screen. So, what we're going to do is, as the Spirit was leading me to say those things, I think that the number that comes, the quantity that comes to mind is number 8, because that is the power. That is the quantity of power, of eternity, of infinity. Is also linked to the color black, from the unending, infinite blackness that all things came from. So let us focus upon that as I ring the chime. This geometric shape of 3, 8 times. We allow the vibration to go around us, through us, and over us. As we do, we open up our third eye, the pineal gland. Connect with universal consciousness, with the all. Connect with each other. Give of ourselves to the all, to each other. Strengthen each other in our objectives, in our manifestations. When we feel weak, we will be able to call on the energy not only of our ancestors and the all, but of each other. There's positive vibes to help us find that way, to give us the strength, to give us the courage. And as we do, we give thanks to the all who we've made a connection with today. We give thanks to the ancestors who are always with us, but we've brought into our conscious mind to be with us, as they spoke through Ndugu Khep Heru today. As we give thanks to the netters, the universal powers that are always with us, that are part of our psyche, We are star children. We are of the cosmos. We have unlimited power. We are unlimited, and we are unboundless. The same thing that makes the sun makes us. The same thing that makes Jupiter makes us. The same thing that makes Alpha Centauri makes us. We have command of all things. We only have to connect with our higher selves and be willing to let go of the fear, let go of the doubt, and open ourselves up to that vibration and resonance. So as we do, and we do those things, and we think of the gratitude and appreciation, we also think of gratitude and appreciation and love for each other as we part, once again for this week, but all week stay with each other. We'll strengthen each other in our efforts, in however small. Not everybody's a leader, not everybody's a fighter, but everybody can contribute in some way, in whatever way. So as we do, we ring 8 times. There's that resonation go through us, to each other, and to all the powers as we give thanks. I'll count in Kiswahili to keep time. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Nne. Tano. Sita. Saba. Nane. Again, as we sit straight, feet flat on the floor, back straight, so our energy centers are in line. And so we can draw upon those energy centers that are linked to the cosmos and all things. We open our eyes and we see the words of power on screen. And so once again, we give this manifestation an affirmation. Remember, what we bring into essence with our very vibration of our voices, of our vibrations of our mouths and our voices, it brings into reality. So be careful of what we say. If we don't mean it, don't say it, because you have the power to create it. You just have to open yourself up to your true essence. So with me, with intent, with power, we say, nguvu zote,
Nguvu zote
Nguvu zetu
kwa watu wetu,
kwa watu wetu,
mapenzi ya wote,
mapenzi ya
mapenzi
wote,
ya wote
ni mapenzi yetu,
ni mapenzi
ni
yetu,
mapenzi yetu.
hakuna mwanzo
hakuna
Hakuna
mwanzo
mwanzo
na hakuna mwisho.
na
na
hakuna
hakuna mwisho.
mwisho.
Anuk, amen.
Anuk,
Anuk, amen.
amen.
All to power to our people in Haiti and all over the world.
All power.
The will of the all is our will.
Will of the world is our will.
There is no beginning
There is
and
no
there is no end
There is no end.
to the cosmos and to us. I am, amen.
Amen.
I am the creative force behind all things. Asanteni sana, Jamal. Thank you very much, family.
Karibu. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Yes, and asante sana and good morning. And again, a big asante sana to Brother Khep Heru for his insightful presentation today on Haiti. So again, I'd like to thank all those who tuned today, this Sunday, and we'll be back again next Sunday, 6 p.m. with another interesting dynamic presentation.